Welcome, everybody. Today we'll be looking at an incredible story of survival coming out of Nepal this week. I mean, I really need you to strip away any romantic notions of mountaineering you might have right now. Just picture this very specific scene. You are 24,600 feet above sea level.
Right. Well into the death zone.
Exactly. You are sitting entirely alone in the Everest death zone. You are a 52-year-old man, and you have absolutely no food, no water. Your supplemental oxygen ran out, well, a really long time ago.
And, just to add to this sheer terror of that reality, your headlamp has just gone out. You are enveloped in total freezing darkness. At that altitude, I mean, the temperature drops so low that exposed skin can literally freeze in minutes.
Total darkness, yeah. And what makes this scene truly nightmarish isn't just the isolation or, the cold. It's what is happening below you, completely out of your sight. While you are sitting there fighting to keep your eyes open, the essential infrastructure of the mountain, like the crucial aluminum ladders that span bottomless crevasses in the ice fall below, they are actively being dismantled and removed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You don't know it yet, but the door is basically being locked behind you. You are completely trapped.
It's terrifying. When we talk about survival, we often talk about fighting the elements, right? But in this scenario, the elements are only half the battle. You are also fighting a ticking clock, created by the very people who were, well, supposed to support you.
Right, the very infrastructure you relied on. So our mission today is to examine this very real, very visceral scenario. We are going to unpack the miraculous survival of a highly experienced guide. His name is Hillary Dawa Sherpa.
A true veteran of the mountain.
Yeah, exactly. And more than just marveling at his sheer will to live, which is incredible, we have to look closely at the systemic, operational, and bureaucratic failures that left him abandoned on the highest mountain on Earth.
Because it's not just a survival story. It's a hard look at what happens when the infrastructure of extreme tourism completely breaks down. It requires us to ask some very uncomfortable questions about accountability, communication, and, frankly, the stark reality of modern commercial mountaineering.
Yeah. It is a critical examination of an industry that operates at the absolute extremes of the world. So how does an experienced veteran guide end up completely abandoned in the death zone?
Right. How does that even happen?
Exactly. To understand the chain of events, we have to go back to the moments right after a grueling 11-day summit push. Can you put that into perspective for us? Like, what is actually happening to the human body after 11 days on Everest?
Well, the human body is simply not designed to exist at that altitude at all. The air is so thin that your cells are literally starving for oxygen.
Wow.
Yeah, every single step requires monumental effort. Your cognitive function slows down, your digestive system essentially just stops working because your body is diverting all its energy to vital organs, and your muscles begin to degrade.
So it's not just like being out of breath.
No, not at all. Exhaustion in the death zone isn't just a feeling of being tired. It is a profound cellular depletion.
Okay, so we find Dawa at a feature called the Yellow Band, and he's dealing with this profound exhaustion. For anyone who hasn't, obsessively studied the Everest route map, what exactly is the Yellow Band?
It is a notorious geological feature high on the mountain.
Yeah.
It's this prominent band of sedimentary sandstone rock, and it requires climbers to navigate some really steep, exposed terrain.
And it's high up, right?
Oh, yeah. It sits well inside the death zone, making it a place where extreme fatigue often sets in and frequently creates a bottleneck of climbers.
Right. So Dawa sits down to rest at this treacherous spot. He is guiding a British client named Chris Thrall. And Dawa turns to Thrall, assures him that he is fine, and tells his client to go on ahead down the mountain.
Which, in the context of mountaineering, that isn't unusual. Guides often manage their own energy to ensure the client's safety.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they will take a moment to recover so they don't become a liability themselves. The client continuing down the fixed ropes to a lower, safer altitude while the guide rests is actually a recognized practice.
Okay, so Thrall does what he is told. He begins his descent. But on his way down, he encounters another climber. This is a Polish mountaineer who is in a truly desperate state. This guy has run out of oxygen entirely and is actively suffering from severe frostbite. By all accounts from those on the mountain, he is dying.
Yeah. The reality of high-altitude survival suddenly crashes right into human morality. Thrall is exhausted himself. He has a guide above him who just stated he was resting and fine.
Right.
And he has a man in front of him who is visibly perishing.
It's an impossible situation, and Thrall makes a choice. He chooses to assist the actively dying Polish climber down the mountain to an abandoned tent at Camp 2 rather than, turning around, climbing back up those treacherous slopes and checking on Dawa.
Which is a heavy decision.
It is. I have to admit, when I first read this, my gut reaction was to side with the internet critics. You see a lot of people online calling Thrall out for abandoning his guide. It just, it feels fundamentally wrong to leave the person you came with.
I get that. But the travel author David Weiss provides a very grounding analysis on this exact point. Weiss highlights that it is incredibly easy for armchair pundits to pass judgment from the comfort of a heated room with a Wi-Fi connection, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The reality in those conditions at that altitude completely alters the moral calculus. Thrall made a deeply logical, deeply human choice. You have a man who could die at any second right in front of you, versus a veteran guide who knows the mountain intimately and explicitly reported no issues.
It's like doing emergency triage in a freezing vacuum. You have to treat the visible, immediate catastrophe right in front of you over the person who just told you they were absolutely fine.
Exactly.
I mean, to turn around and climb back up the yellow band while a man dies at your feet, that would have been another kind of tragedy entirely.
Furthermore, we really have to look at what Thrall did the moment he reached relative safety. He and the Polish climber managed to descend to Camp 2. And for context, Camp 2 is a major staging area further down the mountain. It's often called Advanced Base Camp.
Right, it's lower down.
Yeah. It's lower, safer, and heavily populated with tents and communication gear.
Okay, so once Thrall reaches Camp 2, he looks back up the mountain. And he can actually see Dawa's headlamp up on the slope. And then he watches that light go out.
Oh, God.
I know. The psychological weight of that visual, just seeing the light extinguish, is haunting.
But Thrall executed protocol immediately. He got straight on the radio to base camp and officially reported Hillary Dawa Sherpa as missing. He raised the alarm.
Wow.
I mean, imagine making that split-second life or death choice while your own brain is starved of oxygen, saving a life, and then having to make that radio call.
Right. And this brings us to a massive, glaring contradiction in this story. Because if Thrall successfully radioed base camp, if the officials and the expedition managers knew a man was missing high on the mountain, why on earth was Dawa left to freeze for nearly a week?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right. The answer isn't about, like, a sudden blizzard or an avalanche blocking a rescue. The answer lies in a complete catastrophic breakdown of corporate accountability.
We're looking at a bureaucracy of neglect here. To understand how a distress call about a missing human being just gets lost in the ether, we have to look at the business structure operating at Everest Base Camp.
Yeah, let's unpack this permit sharing system because it seems to be at the heart of this failure. Dawa and Thrall were part of an expedition run by a smaller outfitter called Himalayan Traverse.
Okay, so operating an expedition on Everest requires massive administrative overhead. You have the climbing permits issued by the government, which are incredibly expensive. You also have mandatory insurance deposits for rescues, liaison officer fees, and environmental deposits. Smaller companies often just do not have the capital to front all of these costs, or the administrative bandwidth to handle the paperwork for a small handful of clients.
So to get around this, Himalayan Traverse utilized this permit sharing practice. They basically paid a fee to a much larger, wealthier company called 8K Expeditions to process their climbing permits and to hold the primary insurance policy for the expedition.
And the economic incentive is clear for both sides, right?
Yes.
The small company gets to operate without tying up massive amounts of capital, and the large company makes a profit by essentially acting as an administrative umbrella.
Right.
But it creates an incredibly dangerous diffusion of responsibility.
It's like subcontracting a high-wire circus act. Imagine you're the acrobat. You fall into the net, but the net breaks. Yeah. The subcontractor points at the arena owner and says, "It's their net. They are supposed to maintain it." The arena owner points back and says, "Well, you didn't even tell me you were performing today." Meanwhile, the acrobat is just lying there bleeding on the floor while the two companies argue over liability.
That is a brutally accurate analogy.
Yeah.
Let's examine the communication failure impartially, based on the reports from the companies themselves. When questioned about the massive delay in launching a rescue, Himalayan Traverse, the direct employer of Dawa, pointed the finger at the insurance companies.
Of course.
They claimed that the insurers were unresponsive regarding the procedures and funding for a rescue operation.
So they were basically saying their hands were tied by the underwriters, and without financial clearance, they couldn't scramble a helicopter.
Exactly. But then you have 8K Expeditions, the larger entity holding that crucial insurance policy. Their director stated on the record that they were kept completely in the dark.
Wow.
They claim Himalayan Traverse never contacted them to report Dawa missing and never requested a rescue.
Wait, really?
Yeah. 8K Expeditions claims they only found out about the missing guy days later through media reports. And at that point, they bypassed the smaller company entirely and worked directly with Dawa's family to get a helicopter in the air.
So while these two corporate entities are allegedly failing to communicate, a man is literally dying in the ice. But it's not just the companies. David Ways offers a scathing critique of the entire administrative apparatus at base camp. Ways points out a glaring operational failure regarding the government oversight.
Right, because the Nepal Ministry of Tourism has liaison officers stationed directly at base camp. Their entire job is to monitor these expeditions, ensure regulations are followed, and coordinate emergency responses.
So when Chris Thrall made that desperate radio call reporting Dawa missing, who exactly received it? How does a direct report of a missing person just get ignored?
I wondered the exact same thing. How does a radio call just vanish? It really comes down to the chaos of the end of the season. Base camp is a sprawling temporary city of hundreds of tents. When the season deadline hits, there is a frantic rush to pack up gear, strike tents, and move down the valley before the weather turns.
Everyone is just trying to get out of there.
Exactly. Add in potential language barriers, multiple radio frequencies, and a pervasive assumption that a missing guide is, well, his own company's problem, and you have a recipe for systemic apathy.
That is incredibly dark.
The message might have been heard, but without a clear chain of command enforcing action, it was simply swallowed by the chaos of departure.
I want to remind everyone listening that this isn't just a story about a mountain being dangerous. I mean, mountains are always dangerous. This is a story about what happens when the pursuit of profit, complex subcontracting, and a rush to close up shop outpace the most fundamental requirements of human safety. It is literally a man's life lost in the administrative shuffle.
And that administrative shuffle created a timeline of events with incredibly grim, real-world consequences. If we trace exactly how these operational failures played out chronologically, you can see a ticking clock closing in on a man fighting for his life.
The clock starts the moment the separation happens at the yellow band. And the context here is critical. It is the official final day of the climbing season. The authorities have set a strict deadline to begin dismantling the route infrastructure.
Right. High on the mountain, Thrall makes it down to Camp 2. He notices Dawa hasn't descended, sees his light go out, and radios base camp. The alarm is raised, but as we discussed, it falls into a bureaucratic void.
So the sun sets, and Dawa faces his first night alone in the death zone.
Yeah. Then the next morning dawns. Because Thrall's radio warning somehow completely fails to trigger an official red flag or halt operations, the administrative machinery of base camp just keeps grinding forward.
Unbelievable.
The season deadline has arrived, so expeditions are packing up and leaving en masse.
This is where the bureaucratic timeline nearly becomes fatal. The logistics teams, following their preset schedule and apparently unaware or unconcerned with the missing man, proceed to remove the route infrastructure. Crucially, they pull 7 aluminum ladders from the Khumbu Icefall.
Which is devastating.
I've seen pictures of the Khumbu Icefall, but what does it actually mean to remove the ladders there? Like, why are they so essential?
Well, the Khumbu Icefall is a constantly shifting river of ice at the head of the Khumbu Glacier. It is a terrifying labyrinth of massive, towering ice blocks called suracs and bottomless crevasses that open up unpredictably. It is entirely impassable on foot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The only way humans can cross it is by relying on a specialized team called the Icefall Doctors, who lash together aluminum ladders to create fragile bridges over these dark, freezing abysses.
So removing those ladders literally locks the door to the mountain. Without them, navigating the icefall is considered an impossible suicidal task, and they pulled them. So Dawa is now isolated high above an impassable barrier. He is entirely alone.
Yeah. And based on his later accounts, Dawa managed to survive the extreme elements over the next few days by crawling into abandoned tents left behind by departing expeditions.
Just scrounging for whatever he could find.
Exactly. He was sheltering in the discarded debris of the climbing season, completely isolated from the world.
The passage of time here is agonizing. 72 hours go by. Dawa is enduring freezing temperatures, severe dehydration, and oxygen starvation. Finally, a full 3 days after Thrall's initial, desperate radio alert, a formal search effort begins.
And this search wasn't mobilized by the outfitters taking initiative. which is telling. It was seemingly launched at the behest of the tourism office, who finally acted on the delayed information.
Right.
That bureaucratic delay meant that by the time a rescue was coordinated, Dawa had been exposed to the elements for a catastrophic amount of time.
And that delayed mobilization leads to what has to be one of the most devastating moments of this entire ordeal. A helicopter search is finally launched. It's piloted by a captain and actually carries one of Dawa's own relatives.
Yeah, they fly up the mountain, searching the treacherous terrain.
They fly directly over him. Dawa is down there in the icefall. He hears the rotors, he sees the helicopter, he raises his hands, he signals them twice.
It's just heartbreaking.
How do they miss a man waving at them from an ice field?
Well, you have to consider the scale of Everest from the air. The terrain is a chaotic jumble of white ice, gray rock, and debris. And the glare of the sun on the snow is blinding.
I guess that makes sense.
Furthermore, Dawa is wearing climbing gear that likely blends right in with the abandoned tents and garbage scattered across the camps. The crew looks down, they scan this massive, complex topography, and they simply miss him. They fly away, reporting no trace of the missing guide.
The psychological devastation of watching your only rescue fly away is unimaginable. I mean, most people would have surrendered in that moment. Your body is shutting down, your mind is breaking, and hope has literally flown back down the valley.
The human spirit is remarkably resilient, but what Dawa did next, frankly, defies medical understanding. After the helicopter vanished, he realized nobody was coming for him.
Right. But he didn't surrender. The resolution of this timeline is an absolute miracle. Early the next morning, a garbage management team, basically local workers tasked with cleaning up the debris left by the wealthy expeditions, they are working near the base of the mountain. And they look up toward the treacherous, now ladderless Khumbu Icefall, and they see a figure.
It's Dawa. He has literally crawled out of the icefall.
Think about the physical force required to achieve that. We just established that crossing the Khumbu Icefall without ladders is considered impossible. He navigated those open crevasses, the ones that normally require aluminum bridges, entirely on his hands and knees.
Wow.
He is still in his summit suit. He is severely frostbitten. When the garbage team reaches him, he is speaking very slowly, his body completely battered by the elements, but he is coherent. Most importantly, he is alive.
He orchestrated one of the most remarkable self-rescues in mountaineering history. It was fueled by nothing but his own willpower and an absolute refusal to die on that mountain. He was quickly evacuated to a hospital in Kathmandu, where he began a long and difficult recovery.
It is a triumph of human endurance that almost defies belief. But we cannot let the heroism of the survivor obscure the catastrophic failures of the system that put him in that position in the first place.
Absolutely not. We cannot ignore the context. And this brings us to a deeply provocative thought raised by David Weiss regarding the future of this industry. We have to look at the massive disparity on that mountain.
Right.
You have an industry built on wealthy clients paying tens of thousands of dollars to stand on the summit. Yet the local guides, the very people who physically sustain this multi-million-dollar industry, who carry the gear, fix the ropes, and rescue the clients, they're often treated as expendable cogs in a bureaucratic machine.
If the very people who physically sustain this industry can be so easily lost in the administrative shuffle, what does it truly cost to stand on top of the world? I mean, if a veteran guide's disappearance can be ignored while companies argue over insurance policies and logistics teams pull up the safety ladders below him, the industry has a fundamental flaw it must address.
We rely on clear-eyed observers to cut through the mythology of extreme exploration and show us the reality on the ground, or, well, in this case, on the ice. The heroism is real, but so is the negligence.
Because at the end of the day, when the bureaucratic safety nets break, when the subcontracting companies point fingers, and when the helicopters fly away, you are left with just a man in the dark. A man who, when the lights went out, had to find a way to become his own rescue. Please check out David Weiss' The Longest Way Home Nepal Travel website. David's Nepal guidebooks are the most updated guidebooks in the world today. Links in the show notes to please like and subscribe.